Live better and longer with the Fitzness Show, hosted by fitness expert, author, and TV personality Fitz Kohler. She'll tell you why diets are dumb, supplements are snake oil, and the truth about how you can earn a lean, hard, pain-free, and athletic body. Now for our favorite bossy blonde, Fitz Kohler.
Team, I'm Fitz Kohler, your very noisy race announcer from fitzness.com, and welcome to the Fitzness Show. Today we're going hot topic, super hot, burning, flaming topic, especially if you're a runner. If you're not a runner, you probably don't give a rat's ass, and maybe you want to listen to an older episode again. However, I do think there is some value in sticking around because we're going to talk about this running hot topic, but then you're going to get to know my three guests, and they're pretty awesome. So, okay, forget what I said. Stick with the show. It's going to be really, really good. And even if this isn't your topic, it'll be a topic that, I don't know, you'll sound intelligent on if you are cornered in a party with a runner type. So we are going to talk about the Boston Marathon just set their brand new standards for 2027. If you are qualifying for this race, and it is a qualifier, meaning you get into Boston based on speed. They say you have to be at least this fast, and then you have to be in the top percentage of that fast for each age group and gender. And then the Boston Marathon also allows some charity runners, like you know who. But their standards keep getting tougher and tougher and tougher. And so many people, they say, okay, well, I have to run a certain speed for a marathon. I can probably increase my chances of running a certain speed for a marathon if I run downhill. Now, I'm no dummy. I would go downhill if I had to qualify. I think downhill is great. Uphill, not so much. So Boston has finally said, we're going to level out the playing field. If you are running downhill, we're going to make your time stricter. You're going to have to be even faster to try to level out the playing field. So a lot of people are crazy about it. They're very angry. Some people think it's the best thing ever. I don't actually have very strong opinions. So I brought in three guys who do. So I'm going to start with the most frequent guest on the Fitzness Show. He's the guy who got me into race announcing. He's my other half of Team Noisy, my bestie. And he won't tell you this, but he's ran about 50 marathons and he's gone sub 3 hours twice. Rudy Novotny, welcome back to the Fitzness
Hey,
Show.
Fitz. How you doing?
Good.
Good to be back on the show.
I like your Boston Runner shirt.
That's right. That's right. There we go. Hold on so everybody can see it. Boston Runner for the occasion.
You got that one when you were announcing a race in Boston, right?
No, I got it as a gift from someone.
Some girl was like, hey,
yeah, probably.
Mm-hmm. Well, very themey. I wore one of my Boston shirts too.
There you go. And then you have something else from Boston that you has become rather attached to you. I'm not going to say that you've become attached to because it's attached to you.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm still wearing this. If anybody doesn't know, they put this this bracelet on all the runners in 2021 to prove we didn't have COVID, which again was so dumb. But I just felt like, oh, it's my Boston Marathon bracelet, and I've kept it on, and it's kind of getting janky now. So I don't know why I keep it on, but whatever.
Go ahead.
No, go on.
What year is it? It's 2025, right?
Right. So it's been on.
I'm sorry. What year was that?
21. So
okay, just checking.
I know. I'll take it off someday. Also, we like to tell everybody, but out of Team Noisy,
here we go.
only one of us is around the Boston Marathon.
That is correct. That would be you, Kohler.
Yeah.
and you did a fantastic job. I love that you did it for a charity. And it was an invitation from the Hate Vince group.
That's right, Boston Buddies. I hate Vince. In fact, I invited Vince to be on this show, but he's doing yoga tonight. So whatevs.
Gotcha. Boston Buddies are great. Boston Buddies are fantastic. But yeah, you're the only one, not me. I've qualified several times, but I have never run it.
Not yet. Okay, speaking of Boston Buddies, let's bring in one of my other besties who I met through the Boston Buddies. In fact, I met him the night I ran the Boston Marathon. This is Phil Decker.
Hey, Fitz. Great to see you as always. Met as Boston Buddies and been friends ever since and seen a lot of life together. So thanks for having me on.
Of course. How many Boston Marathons have you run?
I ran two. I ran the fall. We ran together in 2021, and then I ran the spring in 2022. And I'm looking forward to getting back in. It's a timely subject right now.
Yeah, I figured you were perfect. And also, we'll touch on this more later, but Phil has beaten the hell out of stage 4 colon cancer, and he's been working hard to encourage other folks to get colonoscopy so they can catch it early and not suffer the same brutal treatment he's undergone. Right, Phil?
Absolutely. And I got my colonoscopy in between my first Boston and my second Boston. And if I don't get that colonoscopy, it was routine colonoscopy, I was in absolutely great shape. I'm dead. So yeah. I came out of that colonoscopy with stage 4 cancer. I still got to run Boston, which, you don't give up your golden ticket for Boston for much. So please, if you're out there, if you're over 45 or if you're having any symptoms, a lot of young people are dying from colon cancer today, blood in the stool, cramps, IBS, anything like that. And your physician's telling you can't get a colonoscopy. You tell them you need a colonoscopy as soon as possible.
That's right. Squeaky wheel. Thank you, Phil. Okay. And now my next guest, I talk about him frequently on the Fitzness show, but he's my retired police sergeant from Cleveland, the PR king. This poor guy has been killing himself to qualify for Boston for many years, and he's actually qualified twice already. We're still desperately hoping he actually gets in this year. We love him. Tim Patton. Hi, Tim.
Hello. Good evening.
How you doing?
I'm great. I'm pleased to be here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited. Get to spend time with my besties in the race announcing, my travel partners and whatnots, and give me excuses to go places.
There you go.
Well, you've been such a fun addition to my life and Rudy's, and I love that pretty much every time you run one of my races, you PR, and so this is what people need to know is that you qualified for Boston at the Philadelphia Marathon. What was that, 23?
Detroit Free Press.
Oh, Detroit Free Press. That's right.
Detroit Free Press in 22.
In 22. And do you remember
24.
what was the time you were aiming for, and what did you achieve?
I needed 3:35. I actually did my research on this just a minute ago.
Okay.
I needed 3:35, and my chip time was 3:31:02.
Okay, so you beat the qualifying time by almost 4 minutes, yet you still didn't get in because they pushed the finish line, and only people faster than you got in, right?
They pushed the finish line 5 minutes and 29 seconds.
That year.
Oh yeah, but wait, there's more, right?
Right.
It haunts you in your dreams.
Oh, it was in a couple other places too.
Oh. And then so you've come back, you just in Fargo, which I told the tale, I think last episode. If anyone wants to hear about Tim qualifying for Boston in Fargo, you can hear it there. But what time were you, what's the alleged required time for your age group in 26, and what time did you run?
The qualifier for 26 for the age group of 55 to 59 is 3 hours and 30 minutes. And I finished Fargo at 3:26:15.
Incredible.
So now the Boston Athletic Association took 5 minutes off of the qualifier. It was 3:35 for 25. They moved it 5 minutes out of the box because people were complaining that the 7-minute buffer that you needed to get into 25 was too much.
So wait, Tim, I'm sorry. What is what is your qualifier for 55, 59 again? The sound blinked and I missed it.
3:30. 3 hours, 30 minutes.
Okay.
So,
and that's just to be able to register.
That's what
Right.
the minimum standard is, and then the buffer's added after that.
Right.
so wildly faster than even what you were aiming for 2 years ago, and you're still not sure if you will actually get in.
Yeah. The goal is to get in before I'm 60. It's just Phil, you want to explain that one?
I don't know what the explanation would be, but the sooner you get in, the better. And I hope it's this year, Tim, for sure.
The
Life's too
time
short.
difference. The time difference from 60 to 64, I believe it's a 20-minute difference.
Oh wow.
There's a big gap.
Okay.
So
Well,
yeah.
it's good incentive to stay super fit. So, but we definitely want them to let you in this time. Now, Phil, when you got into Boston, what were the required times and what did you run? Because you qualified 2 times.
Yep, it was 3:20, and I ran a 3:10:42, and that was the first one was the COVID year, and that was the 7:42 was the cutoff, and the old axiom is that you're safe at 5 minutes, right? And that really changed things. And I was aiming for a 3:10. I was really glad that I had that 9:18. I'm in the same boat as Tim. I just turned 50. I thought I'll age up. I'll get an extra 5 years or extra 5 minutes. And then they rolled it back. So I'm back to 5 years later. I'm back to 3:20 and pursued at the same time. So that's fine. I just got to do it a little older, I guess.
So you're aiming for 3:20. Do you have a marathon scheduled to qualify, Phil? Have you chosen one?
Well, this topic's pretty, it's right on the number. I was thinking about doing the tunnel marathon out in Seattle. And my thought was, and I'm going to be really interested to hear what Rudy says about this. I am more of a fast twitch athlete. I was not a runner growing up. And my thought was that I could use I always lift legs, that I could use my advantage in my thighs to run downhill. And then that would also help me, be a little bit faster. When they've changed it, now I'm kind of looking at just going back to Indy. That's where I did it before. It's a great course. It's flat. It's fast. Love the people. So I think I'm probably going to go back to Indy. And my goal will be to do it in 3:15 or less. I think you got to go 3:15 or less.
Spicy.
So the tunnel marathon in Washington, that's a downhill?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yep, it is.
Okay.
It's a downhill course. And part of that for me is I don't think I will be quite where I need to be. It's I think it's maybe middle of September, and Indy's later on in the schedule. It's the first week in November. So it's just going to work out better.
Okay, so I want to share before we get too far, if you go to the Boston BAA.org website, they explain their decision and they're trying to level the playing field. So, I mean, golly, if you're just smart enough to run downhill, you should get extra points for that. But they're saying, no, we want all of our qualifiers to have some sort of equal stress, I guess. So verified qualifying times from any course with a net downhill between 1,500 and 2,999 feet will incur a 5-minute time adjustment. So you got to run 5 minutes faster if you go that downhill distance. And if you run a net downhill between 3,000 and 5,999 feet, you have a 10-minute time adjustment. And then if you go anything steeper than that, it doesn't qualify anymore. So what do we think about that? Rudy, what do you think about that time adjustment?
Well, I'm not a proponent of it. I think essentially 26.2 miles is 26.2 miles. There's a number of ways to get yourself an advantage. I don't, this is of course just my opinion, and the rest of the world is free to disagree with me. I know a number will. A downhill course is only an advantage if you are a decent or talented downhill runner. Otherwise, it could definitely be in many ways actually a disadvantage if you don't know how to use that advantage, my experience running marathons and training for marathons, my own personal is I trained on hills all the time. I was training on hills nonstop, but very little downhill training. I was working the uphill and I was not working to be efficient and gliding and not overstriding on the downhills. So I turned out to be a crap downhill runner. I would pass so many people going uphill. Hey, yeah, have a great race. And I'm just moving along. And then those same people on the way down were really, really nice. They say, hey, you're looking good, Rudy. We'll see you at the finish line. So I don't think that in and of itself is necessary. Now, also, as we're discussing the change as a whole, 1,300 feet, as the starting point of a net downhill. Net is a very important word here, okay? Because it's your starts over here and your finish is over here. And it's what happens in between that creates that net downhill or net uphill.
Well, ironically, the Boston Marathon is a net downhill race, but if you've ever run the Boston Marathon, it doesn't feel downhill. I mean, the first half of it, I remember thinking, wee, this is great. I really liked going through the first maybe 8 miles of that race. And then the end of it is, Jesus Christ, it sucks type distance.
Right. Well,
elevation.
A race I have a lot of experience with, and I should know whether it's net downhill or not. And for some reason, I'm just old age, I'm just not recalling, is Big Sur. Big Sur's got all these hills you're climbing, and the day after, the evening of, or the day after the Big Sur Marathon, all you need to do is walk through town and see how many people are going downstairs backwards because their quads have been crunched, not from the uphill, but from the downhill sections. But, so Big Sur has a very, if it's net downhill, it's tiny. If it's net uphill, it's still not a lot. But right. I think, I mentioned to you, Fitz, that I had an initial impression on what's happening here. And Disney came to mind. Okay. Disney, what are you talking about, Rudy? Disney has nothing to do with this. Well, they kind of do. And what's happened with Boston is they have a product, they have an event, and they have so many people that want to do it that they have to manage the numbers. And they're
weeding.
Yeah, they only have one day. Disney has 365, but they only have one day. But it's the same concept of you have to manage what you have. Boston can only have so many people. And these two gentlemen have both run it, so they know way better than I do. And I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think Boston has perhaps the field's gotten a little larger year to year to year. Not a lot, but you can only make it so big, and then the participant experience is really going to erode from there. But I feel like there's other ways to handle this, and not the least of which is if it's you hit a point where the course just doesn't qualify as a Boston qualifier.
Right. Maybe it's just not. Yeah.
Okay. Now I know all those courses aren't going to be real happy, or like CIM and a lot of other people are going to be really happy to hear me say this. And I think CIM had Cal International, that is, had a 45% Boston qualifying.
I don't know. Maybe Revel has a 40. I think what I heard is 40% of Boston qualifiers last year qualified at a Revel race, which are all downhill.
At a Revel, right. So,
I'm not a fan. Not a fan. Phil, what do you think?
My vote has been cast. No.
Phil,
I think it's hard enough to get in.
So when I first heard this, my thought was, I kind of see where they're going, and maybe it's like a wind aid world record that maybe they're evening things up a little bit. And then I started thinking about kind of the athletic part of it. And the best example I can give you is I ran Boston. You're right. It's a torture chamber. You run downhill for the first 14, 15 miles, and holy shit, you're 5 miles uphill. And then there's some pretty rollers coming in, right? And the best example I could give, you look at Kipchoge a couple of years ago, right? He's a very lean runner. He runs downhill. He gets to the hills and he's running up hills, and he died, right? You look at the women's champion the last 2 years. She was a former 800. She's a short distance. If you look at her thighs, I mean, she is built. She is built for the hills. And I think there's something to that, right? I think if you're not built for hills, I think it can hurt you in some ways. And I'm like Rudy said, if you're not training on hills and you're not ready for those hills, especially if you get something that's really steep, if you get something that's really steep, you're almost running against your body, right? You're fighting your body the whole way. And you get to 20 miles and all of a sudden that really starts catching up to you. I mean, I ran my first Boston. I thought, oh, this is great. Like you, Fitz. I thought we're running downhill. We're feeling great. I get to the hills and we're going uphill, and it didn't go so well, right? And I thought, gosh, I immediately went home and I said, I'm going to have to do a lot more air squats. I'm going to have to do a lot more lunges. I'm going to have to really work on my legs. And I always tell people that, when you go into Boston, you really got to do that. So I think it's part of it is, how much you prepare for the hills. And then I think there's another part that maybe we haven't touched on yet is the expectation. So how many people go into a Revel race and they say, hey, I expect to have a great race and I'm going to hit this time. And they've done the training to get there. And it just happens. It's kind of like, when they broke the 4-minute mile, it just kept happening. Right. And I think you see that with the times now with Boston, right? Every year it gets faster and faster. I think there's some psychology to that. So if you would have asked me a couple of days ago when you asked me, I would have said, hey, I think what they're doing is the right thing. But at this point, I think I'm kind of in Rudy's camp on this one. I think if you can run 26 miles, 26.2 miles, as long as you're not doing it on an escalator, more power to you, wherever you're doing it. And speaking of that, I think if you're going to tell me what would the course you would rather run the most, if I could design one, I would tell you I would want to do a point-to-point course with a 15-mile, 15-mile wind at my back. That would be the perfect,
right.
perfect course for me, right? I'm running on air. I think I could probably run 10 to 15 seconds faster on my pace, easy. So if you guys know where that race is at, let me know. That's where I really want to be.
The wind at your back race. That's a thing.
We could sell it, I think, right?
Think so. Yeah. How do we get that? And then Tim, what do you think about this? The elevation requirements now. And we will be right back.
Are you looking for the perfect gift for a loved one battling cancer? The Cancer Comeback Series by Fitz offers hope, inspiration, and practical guidance. With Your Healthy Cancer Comeback, My Noisy Cancer Comeback, and the Healthy Cancer Comeback Journal. These books are a lifeline for all patients and survivors. Right now, you can order autographed copies at a special discount. Show your support and help a loved one go from sick to strong. Visit fitzness.com today. That's FITZNESS.com. Fitzness.com.
We're back.
Well, you are my PR queen, right? So I actually called and got permission to PR in Mesa when I ran Arizona, just because I didn't want to get any bad vibes. You're going in with permission, whatever. And that has a net downhill for the first half, and then it just levels off. And I ended up getting an extra 2 minutes off of my time. But to Rudy's point, the downhill, that's when I got a stress fracture in my foot coming with all of that. It's a different beast. You have to train your quads a whole lot different than running Fargo. Right? It's just you're on a patch of land as opposed to, you got that slant, you're leaning into it. I'm kind of in the middle on this one. They're the people that qualify, they've earned it. It's terrific. Did they earn it on a flat course? Phil, you ran Indy. I have yet to, that's on my 50 state list. And, again, I've heard nothing but wonderful things, flat course, great crowd support. The downhill, having been shut out 2 years in a row and qualifying, and they're making it tougher for people that are trying to skate the system, so to speak. I'm not saying they're cheating. They're still
Right.
marathon runners. They're great athletes. God bless you. But I'm being selfish and I want to get in. And I think if that's one way to not necessarily weed out the crowd, but just to level off the playing field. Again, you don't have a 15-mile-an-hour wind behind your back, or you don't have that downhill. You're running a fairly level playing field, evening off the course. I could see that just being a more fair playing field. Does that make sense?
So if this rule went into effect this year, it would actually benefit you because you have qualified on
Correct.
on a flat course that has no punishments. There's no penalties.
Yeah. I mean, and just looking at that, Mesa, I want to say Mesa had a 1,200-foot elevation listed. Now, I don't know if that's 1,200 feet above sea level or if that was the marathon, but I mean, if that's the case, all of a sudden, do 50 people, does that change the buffer from 651 to 532?
Well, I bet it does. A statistic I read is that 40-something% of Boston qualifiers qualified at a Revel race, and they're all downhill. So all of a sudden, the Revel folks are just getting bumped back significantly, unless they're super speedsters, right? I mean, that really limits the crowd of people who are meeting the qualifying time and then the buffer.
But I think those numbers are going to be a little bit different too. I mean, again, they're Mark Twain. You got lies, damn lies, and statistics, right?
Yeah.
So but getting to, Phil made a pretty interesting point about the psychology of it. Like the mental half of running is, getting to the finish. The 6 inches between your ears is the biggest hurdle in marathon running. Now, technology also has a role to play in this with the carbon fiber soles, the different layout of like the shoes have changed, the nutrition. Again, in Fargo, I was taking salt tabs every other mile because I'm a salty sweater.
That's what they say about you.
A salty old bee is the other half of it too. But on a selfish note, I'm glad they're making an adjustment because there are people that are that are fast, that could run a 3:20 marathon in my age group and beat me by 10 minutes. God bless them. They worked harder. They earned it. They should get in. That same guy on a flat course, am I faster than him?
Maybe. Well, geez Louise, I'm hoping this year they finally say, yes, Tim Patton, come to Boston.
Third time's the charm, right?
That's right. Get this out of your system, for crying out loud.
So Tim, what is your time under your required? I think I missed that right now.
3 minutes and 45 seconds. 3:45.
Okay, so based on history, just not to be the downer, but based on the history, you're in trouble.
Exactly. I'm not comfortable with it. That was one of the first conversations I had with Fitz after the race, and she opened up, but you ran your best race. Shut up. It was.
The other point that you two made here is valuable, though. You don't need. You personally have shown you don't need a downhill race to run very well. You just need Fitz at the finish line announcing the race.
That's I'm telling you.
Wait till Boston hears about that. If Fitz Kohler is your race announcer, you're going to get a 5-minute penalty.
Right. Well, oh my gosh.
Caffeine-free Diet Coke. That's
too much fun. Too nice, too much fun, too noisy. we gotta cut that out.
No, I'll tell you what, it's such a blessing knowing that you guys are there coming in. There it is. All right. She'll see me. He'll see me. They'll say something. I mean, even in Rocket City, in Huntsville, Rudy yelling out, you know, sub 330. I mean, that little something, that's what the crowd support is so big. Just, even a little baby on the side of the road, Runo, go, Runo,
Oh,
I'd much rather see you guys at mile 20. That would help me.
I'm sorry.
Put you
In
at
what mile?
Mile 20 would be perfect.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I get a
Yeah.
little love at mile 20.
Okay.
That would be great.
Well, you would only see me there because there's no way she's going to leave the finish line. So
We
I
can
hear
park
you.
out there mile 20. That'd be fine, Rudy. That'd be great.
Well, really, the problem I have right now that I think about it is Phil Decker. Why haven't you run one of our races?
I'm coming to Gasparilla. I've already signed up. Oh yeah. Remember, I full ultra. It's already booked.
Okay.
I booked it when you said, "Hey, this fills up." I got it booked. Yeah, I'm coming.
Well,
And we tried to run a race. Remember, I tried to run Quad Cities, and I had a surgery like 2 weeks before.
what a wimp you
so-
were. I was like, I just had cancer surgery. I can't run a marathon. I was like,
we got to take a really good, tour of the tractors. I know they didn't have any, I heard your last podcast, so we didn't have anybody shirtless on the tractors, but we got the whole John Deere World Tour, so that was great. But I just didn't get to run.
Yeah, it was sexy nonetheless. All those tractors are very, very hot all by themselves. But yes.
So Phil, what was the time difference between when you finished treatment and when you ran Boston?
No, it was during.
Good question. So I ran 3:10:42, and then my first Boston I ran 3:30. And I will tell you this though, I took everyone's advice that said have the time of your life, and I did. The night before I went to it was in October, so I went to the Red Sox playoff game. I stayed till the very end. It was a walk-off homer in like the 13th inning, and I'm looking at my watch and like, oh, this isn't good. And then I really took a big risk. I get out of there, and I was starving, and the game had gone way longer than it should. And there's a guy there with like a Polish sausage.
Oh, perfect.
Peppers and all that. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, this is either gonna be okay or this is gonna go really bad. But I ran really well up until about mile 15, and then I hit the good old Newton Hills, and then I got my first Boston lesson, right? You can watch it on YouTube, and it is not the same as it is live. And then the second time around was just a different deal. I ran it just to finish. I actually had the time. I told Fitz I had a better time the second time when I ran it after I had done 5 rounds of chemo because I really got to enjoy it. I got to go jump on the trampolines. I got candy from the kids. I wore a shirt with some cancer stuff on it, and people were just absolutely wonderful. And they came up and talked to me throughout the race, and probably the best race of my life, and the time had nothing to do with it. And I think, anybody that's out there listening, no matter how you get into Boston or however you run Boston, it's the greatest place to meet some of the most interesting people that you'll ever meet in your life. And, for me, that's where I met Fitz. To this day is, one of my best friends. I love her to death. And I've run in a rim to rim with a friend that I met at Boston, Krita. She's great. I have so many great friends from Boston, and they all have a story. You could sit in the Boston Marathon start line or on those buses and just ask people, what's your story? And you're going to hear some really cool stories. And that's what I genuinely love about that place. And that's what makes me want to go back. I want to go back and hear those stories, and I'm not an elite. I'm not going to run a 220 or anything crazy like that, but I love being around people that have, that have really made a sacrifice to get there, whether that's fundraising or whether that's, whether that's doing it in time. And it's a wonderful experience.
So I love you back. And I'm also so grateful that Boston brought us together. But you bring up a good topic. And so many people have that Boston stoicism. I want to run it, but I will only do it if I qualify. And I totally admire and encourage people to try to qualify. If speed's important, but if you're not qualifying, don't be foolish and miss out on the opportunity. They raise, I think it's like $60 million for incredible, diverse charities on that one day of the year. And I'm so proud that I was able to be a part of that with, I think, $10,000 raised or something. But I had a wonderful experience doing something great for a great organization. And so I would hate for people to deny themselves that opportunity, not only for their own experience, but to help others, whether it's cancer patients or I supported a domestic violence support organization. It's just, what do you think about that, Phil, where people are denying themselves? I'll only do it if I qualify.
I think that's, gosh, I would say that's terrible. Because I had a friend who just did it as a charity and didn't really have any ambitions to do it. And I just said, hey, nobody asks you after you run Boston. They don't ask you. They don't say, did you qualify or not qualify? They ask you, well, how was your experience? You ran the Boston Marathon. That's all they care about. And the experience is world-class. It's like nothing that you will ever do. Anybody that asks me, I don't care how they get in, I tell them it's the greatest race in the world. You got to do it. It's awesome. I mean, it's unbelievable. So anybody that's out there and I hear people saying, well, I can't raise that amount of money. Well, put your mind to it, come up with some different things, talk to people. You'll be surprised you can come up with, but no matter how you get in, I think Boston's won my heart and I'll do anything to get back there. For me personally, it's a full circle moment to be able to qualify because that's how I went first. But, if I get 4 or 5, I don't know, who knows what happens. I'm not going to get sick again. But if that happened 10 years from now and that I'd go do it in a charity in a heartbeat. And I know there's plenty of people. I'm going to draw a blank on his name, but he used to be like a 220 Boston marathoner, comes back now every year and he runs it like 7-8 hours. But he loves Boston that much. Gosh, and I'm going to remember the name. I apologize. But just stories like that. It's about Boston and about what Boston is.
Rudy Novotny, you've
okay.
said that you would.
Hey.
I'm not picking on you.
I know you're not. No, I know you're not.
You.
My name's Rudy, and I'm a reformed. I'll only run Boston if I qualify runner. Yes, and I was absolutely one of those. I qualified for Boston, I think 4 times. Never ran it.
And tell them why you didn't run it.
From the very first time I ran Big Sur, I just fell in love. I was in awe of that experience, and because of the date of Big Sur and the date of Boston, you had to make a choice because nobody's going to run Big Sur and then Boston and then Big Sur, right? Huh? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Now it's a thing. But at the time, I'm 71 now. At the time, you do something. We were doing a couple a year, maybe 3 a year, maybe 4 a year. Now it's what marathons you run last week. So anyway, I have. I have completely changed my attitude about it. I think it's fantastic that the BAA provides the venue for charities to be there and for the participants to raise money, important money for these charities. I think it's a fantastic opportunity for the charities. It's an amazing opportunity for runners that just wouldn't have any other way to get to Boston. So I'm a changed man. I've seen the light. And Boston is such an enigma. Okay, people, a very, very, very small percentage of people can qualify. Period. It's a really small percentage. I wish I had the numbers. I know it varies with age, but generally in the running community, it's a real small percentage that are talented enough to make the minimum standard and then hit the buffer to begin with.
Yeah.
So these people, year to year to year are working so hard. They're working so hard to qualify. And then when they run Boston, and I've heard this again and again and again, they don't run it hard. They just run it for the experience. They want to just, even the ones that have done it 10, 15, 20 times, I got to go back. I just got to go back and take it all in. And they're running, 10, 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour over their qualifying time because it's Boston and why rush it? Why rush a good thing? I'm going to enjoy myself. So it's kind of an interesting dynamic there.
Tim.
Yes. To Rudy's point, if I were to get into Boston, again, the qualifying time is 3:30. If I run faster than 4:15, I'd be pissed because I didn't take in the experience.
Oh.
I ran Chicago. When I first qualified for Boston, that entered me into the Chicago Marathon in 23. And it was right before I retired, I was going to run the 3 majors back to back to back. I got into New York through charity. A friend had a restaurant that was one of they hire people with special needs and mental disabilities. And that was the fundraiser. And I ran New York. And I ran Chicago 3:29:15. And I was moving. And didn't there was such a great crowd support in Chicago. A month later, I ran New York in 4:27:49. Petting dogs, talking with cute girls on the sideline, just taking pictures of posters, all of it. It was phenomenal, and that experience is what it's about. Especially one of the majors. I mean, that is something that my vision of running Boston would be just to soak it up, interact with the crowd. And
so I ask, if God forbid your time does not qualify you, when do you pull the pin and do a charity run?
When I get into Medicare.
When is that?
65. No, I mean, at this point in time, I mean, because of your videos, because of right? I am. I mean,
close.
to stay at this level would be easier to maintain a 3:30, 3:35 pace for a marathon. When I turn 60, I get a 20-minute buff. I get 20 more minutes.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's the entry. That's the pathway.
Okay.
The ego, the drive is to do it before I turn 60. If I don't make it when I'm 60 to 64, and God willing, I make it to 65, God unwilling, I'm in Boston before that. But if I don't make it, before then, 65, I'll go charity.
Okay.
So if I made it Tim's defense, then not that he needs one, he's so close. He's so close that I could totally understand why that's the path he's looking at now.
Oh yeah.
But having said that, if you ever decide to go the charity route, I will be the first one to cut a check toward your effort. So I just want you to know that.
Well, here's the other mindset, and I think Phil and I have this in spades, is that life is so freaking short. Like, none of us are guaranteed next year, so do the things you want to do them now. So let's just pretend you didn't get in this year, freaking charity run it, and then still try to qualify and do it twice, right? Putting off anything, I don't know, makes me a little squeamish. What do you think, Phil?
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. And the other night I was working on my list of my 15 things that I'm going to do. You did a podcast about it. And, today is the day to do what you want to do, for sure. And God, I'd hate to see you not be able to do it, Tim. I'm with Fitz, 1,000% on that.
I get it. It's one of the stars, right? I'm working on my bucket list, and the 50 state thing is part of it. I'm also, having done Chicago and New York, I'm going to Berlin in the fall. I'm going to try to do the world majors. So Boston all of a sudden becomes a timing issue. Now, Boston and London are what, 2 or 3 weeks apart? So if trying to schedule that out, finances become an issue when you're on a fixed income.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Just don't wait. Don't wait. I want everyone to do the things, and you could do it both ways for Boston. You could still be a charity guy and speedster guy, have your cake and eat it too. Also,
sorry.
Tim and I, we were in Fargo a couple of weeks ago, and there's these big trolls. I forget what the name. Do you remember what the artist's name is, Tim?
I have the flyer in the other, Thomas Damon.
Maybe.
Project 412.
So it's a Danish artist, but he installs these massive trolls in the woods all over America and Europe. They're incredible. I've seen the troll, I think it's called Isaac in Breckenridge, which was fantastic. But near Fargo and Detroit Lakes, they have 6 trolls. And so Tim and I had looked at this brochure at the expo, and I said, "Oh, there's trolls." And I told him about the trolls, and there you go. And he said, "They're so great. Maybe I'll wait to see them when I can go with a friend." And I just said, "No, you're here now. Go see them. You might get abducted by aliens next month, right? Go see the trolls." Are you so happy you went to see them?
Yes and no. Yes, I was. Yes, well, because I was on a time schedule. I had to be in Minneapolis for my flight. So I had just run the marathon the day before, and each one of these trolls is a hike into the woods to go find it. So I'm hustling back and forth. I put a few more miles on feet the next day. But yes, I'm very grateful to have gone. The only regret was that I didn't have enough time to really appreciate the woods and the forest and the hikes, which is, again, keep me posted on the Halloween half. That's we'll pick another day and go have a little conversation with these guys. It was really cool. It was very cool. And his name is Thomas Dambo, Dambo, and Project 412.
Yeah, everybody needs to just look that up online. It's the coolest. They're incredible. And wherever I travel, I start looking to see if there's trolls because they're awesome.
It is amazing. It's such a visual, and it's I love art of all forms, and it's just incredible. And I'm thinking, what if somebody didn't know about the trolls, and they're just on this walk through the woods, and then all of a sudden, there are aliens. Aliens exist. That's proof.
One of them's got to be 60 feet high. I didn't have time to read all of their stories, but it's an experience. Definitely an experience.
I could see, how people are doing 50 marathons or 50 races in 50 states. I could see people creating travel plans just to go see all the trolls. They go see all the baseball stadiums or whatever. The trolls are all worthy of a visit. I think they're pretty cool. You guys have expressed your opinions pretty nicely about the penalty time for downhill running for Boston. I actually have no opinion on it. So I'm glad I'm not copping out. I don't know. Maybe I just, I know.
I can't believe you don't have an opinion on it either. That's
really,
that's a miracle in itself, right?
I know.
Fitz Kohler without an opinion.
Come
Wrong
on.
show.
I just don't care enough. So whatevs. Whatevs. Boston can do what Boston can do. I've already owned that thing. That's right. Actually, you know what? It's funny as you guys are talking about how the qualifiers all run super slow and they enjoy the thing, even though the Boston qualifiers were running Boston really slow. They were still kicking my ass. I was doing my little run walk, and all my friends who are the speedsters, "Hey, Fitz," they'd come tippy toeing by me. And yeah, there's a difference between the qualifiers and someone like me. But I got more time on the course. I got to kiss the dog. I got to kiss Santa Claus, and I tried to kiss some Wellesley girls, but it was the COVID time, so nobody would kiss me back. But
I didn't get to kiss Wellesley girls in 2021, but 2022 was open season, so I was glad to run it again.
That might be incentive enough. In fact, I could see going to do New York or Chicago and just like smooching. have a little thing where I just smooch as many spectators, because why reserve all of that to the Wellesley Scream Tunnel, right?
I'm with you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, guys. So listen, at the end of my show, we always do the thing. So I'm going to ask you each what song, just give me one song and an artist that people should add to their playlist this week to make their workouts more fun or more interesting or, powered up.
I'd go with Highway to Hell with Dane Solo. Dane Solo did a remix, and it's about 120, maybe 130 beat per minute remix that's solid.
And it's Dane, D-A-N-E?
D-I-A-N, Dane.
Okay.
I'm going to offend people now. European, I guess. I don't know.
Okay.
He's a DJ.
Oh, okay. All right.
Diane Solo.
Diane Solo. Mr. Novotny.
Bob Seger, The Fire Inside, has a great beat. It's really driving. It talks about really just the fire inside you and what's got you where you are right now while you're running down the road. And the piano is phenomenal. Just a piano riff. And I look it up and I'm like, who is that? Who is on piano? It's Roy Bittan, Bruce Springsteen's piano player, who's just world class. The professor, Roy Bittan. Fire Inside, Bob Seger. Put it on.
Okay. And I also always like to mention that my family loves Bob Seger, and my dead father, who's been cremated, is in a cardboard box on my mom's dresser, wrapped in a Bob Seger t-shirt, covered with a terrible towel, a Pittsburgh Steelers towel. So it's always good to add a little Bob Seger to anything on behalf of Ken Fitzgerald. All right, Phil Decker, have you come up with a song?
Yeah, I'll just go with "Lose Yourself." That's my go-to. We'll go with Eminem and "Lose Yourself." And I'm a huge Bob Seger guy. I mean, you can't not love Bob Seger. That's Detroit rock at its best. Solid for sure.
He's so good, so good. And then the other thing we do at the end of the show is a communication tip. So it could be anything you think people should do better on, or give out the suggestion. And if, sometimes people say you should listen more or stop saying and ah, any sort of communication tip. Phil Decker, I'm making you go first this time.
Okay, great. As far as this one, I can handle this one. People always will ask you, in the United States especially, they'll ask you, what do you do for a living, or what do you do for work? And I think a much better question is, what do you do for fun, or what's your hobby?
I love that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that's a really good one. Sometimes I feel invasive when I ask people what they do for a job. So that's actually a really good thing. What do you do for fun? What's your hobby? That's great, Phil. Rudy Novotny.
I would say, you already brought it up. Be a better, two parts of it. Be a better listener, and don't forget the conversation should be a two-way street. Ask that person that you're talking to. So after you've told them, spent 45 minutes telling them how you're doing, say, hey, how about you? How are you doing? What's going on with you? I really want to hear.
I love that. That's very meaningful. I struggle with that. I have a lot of people who just lecture me when we get together, and I feel like, is there something we could both talk about? So thank you. Nice tip. Society, listen to Rudy Novotny. And Tim Patton.
Really mean it when you ask, how are you? All right. How are you? And compliment somebody. For sometimes they're meaningless. Oh, hey, nice jacket, or, something you're wearing. But then you see somebody you haven't seen for a few minutes, and you say, you know what? You look good. It's good to see you, and mean it.
Well, I got to tell you that I love all three of you very, very much. And I'm so grateful to have you in my life and on my show. So thank you. Thank you for being my besties. You guys are the best.
My
Pleasure,
queen.
Fitz. Let's do it again soon. Run Boston, even if it's for a charity.
Let me
Right.
in. Let me in.
Right.
Let Tim in. Let Tim in.
Let Tim in.
Let Tim in. Yes, that's it. You know what, Tim? I believe it's going to happen for you this year. I sincerely do.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, I'm crossing all the parts. Okay, guys, I love you. Thank you so much. Everybody else at home, if you haven't done so yet, hit subscribe, leave a comment, maybe share this episode with a friend who likes running, a friend who likes happy noise, and everybody tell them what to do.
Get to work.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Hi, this is Rudy Novotny, the voice of America's Marathons. We all love how much running has benefited every aspect of our lives, so much so that most of us only wish we'd started sooner. Wouldn't it be wonderful to gift the opportunity to children of today? Well, you can. The Morning Mile is a before-school walking and running program that gives children a chance to start each day in an active way while enjoying fun, music, and friends. That's every child, every day. It's also supported by a wonderful system of rewards, which keeps students highly motivated and frequently congratulated. Created by our favorite fitness expert, Fitz. Morning Milers across the country have run over 2 million miles and are having greater success with academics, behavior, and sports because of it. The Morning Mile is free to the child, free to the school, and is inexpensively funded by businesses or generous individuals. Help more kids get moving in the morning by visiting morningmile.com. Champion the program at your favorite school or find out more about sponsorship opportunities. That's morningmile.com. Long may you run.